wealthy farmer saves a desperate mother and her 3 kids in a thunderstorm. Chapter 1: The Mysterious Beginning. The night Black Hollow discovered thunder. It felt as if the heavens had opened wide, unleashing every raindrop that had ever existed. Flashes of lightning cracked the sky like a whip, illuminating James Worthington's plush farmstead for mere fractions of a second. Yet he found himself far from home, stranded at Wren's End Inn, a dilapidated hideaway perched uneasily along the winding road. The flickering candles inside seemed to ineffectively fight against the shadows lurking in the corners, and a thick tension coiled in the humid air. It was there that he met Clara, a widow dressed in worn fabric that seemed to blend with the worn wallpaper of the inn. Her 3 little ones clung to her, eyes wide with fear, glistening like raindrops on leaves. Thunder rumbled, rattling the very bones of the establishment. Clara's lips trembled as she explained their desperate flight from the storm. The children were sick, cold, and all she had was the hope of finding shelter. James felt a tightening in his chest. This wasn't a mere storm. It was a tempest that echoed their struggles, a relentless barrage threatening to drown them both. As they huddled around a meager fire, the warmth of connection ignited something deeper, a bond formed between shared pain and raw vulnerability. Clara's voice quivered as she recounted the bitter end of her marriage. Her late husband entangled in debts that slithered like serpents, inching ever closer to entwining her family in despair. The name of their banker, Mr. Thorn, hit James like a thunderclap of revelation. He was the same man who tugged at his own familial strings, his mother urging James to secure a proposal from a high society match for their dwindling social standing. Obligation chafed against the budding desire to help Clara. He stared into the flames, the crackling embers illuminating the depths of his soul where unfulfilled dreams lay buried. Was his wealth just gilded shackles, a means to uphold an expected legacy, while the righteous cries of the troubled drowned? Torn between his comfortable life and the gripping reality of Clara's plight, James felt a lump rise in his throat. If only his name could wield the power to untangle her fortunes. As lightning blazed once more, a chilling secret wove itself into the fabric of the night. The very banker Clara feared was intricately tied to his family's wealth. James could hardly breathe. The stakes blurred in a haze of uncertainty, shackling him to a destiny he fervently wished to escape. He wanted to save Clara, to shelter her children in his dreams, not destroy them. But how could he confront the monster made of his own bloodline? Just then, as he contemplated his heart's fierce yearning to be a hero, a violent knock echoed through the rain-soaked walls, a call to arms from a storm far more sinister than nature's fury. Who waited outside? What more would this night unleash? The shadows of his past loomed, and James stood at a crossroad, heart racing. Would he tread the path of family loyalty, or chart a new course driven by the flicker of love? The answer hung heavy in the air, electric, as though the storm were waiting for him to decide. The shadows of his past loomed, and James stood at a crossroad, heart racing. His mind whirred with uncertainty as the violent knock reverberated through the inn, pulling Clara and her children closer together. Their frightened faces mirrored his own fear. A lump rose in his throat, tight and suffocating. What awaited him beyond that door? Suddenly, a crack of thunder roared overhead, shaking the inn to its very core. The flames of the meager fire flickered wildly. James glanced at Clara, her wide eyes filled with apprehension. All at once, a stronger knock echoed, a desperate pleading rather than a demand. He took a deep breath. "I'll see who it is," he whispered, barely audible over the storm's fury. He approached the door, each measured step wrapped in uncertainty. The wood felt cold against his palm. With a swift motion, he swung the door open, rain slashing into the warmth of the inn. A figure stood, outlined against the chaos, soaped to the bone and gasping for breath. It was Mr. Thorn, the ruthless banker who haunted Clara's thoughts. "James, thank God!" Thorn exclaimed, his eyes darting with a mix of panic and urgency. He stumbled inside, soaking the floor, oblivious to Clara's tightened expression or the children's shivers. "You need to help me! They're after me!" "Who?" James felt a chill creep over him. He edged back, glancing at Clara, who now gripped her children tighter. "They're going to ruin me!" Thorn's voice cracked, desperation pouring from him. I've been working with some dangerous men, money laundering, and they want what's theirs." James's heart raced. "What does this have to do with me?" Thorn's gaze dropped, shame wrinkling his features. "They know about your wealth. They know your family. I'm tied to you more than you think." A jolt hit James, shocking him to the core. Thorn owed him nothing more than disdain. Yet here he was, drawing lines between them with invisible ink. "What the hell are you talking about?" "I'm your father's brother," Thorn blurted, eyes wide with fear. "I'm your uncle." The word struck James like a slap. He staggered back, bracing himself against the doorframe. A whole lifetime of family legacy crashed in on him. Torn between disbelief and confusion, he demanded, "You're lying! My mother would never!" But Thorn pressed on, face slick with sweat. "It's true. I've tried to keep my distance for your sake, but they're closing in. They want to drag us all down." James's eyes flickered to Clara, who stood frozen, a wash of horror stealing her breath. Everything he thought he knew about loyalty, about family, started to unravel. Why was this happening now? Why in the middle of a storm? Laughter echoed from outside, cutting through the heavy air, both men jumping. A group loomed just beyond the tree line, shadowed figures circling. Thunder rolled, but their sinister chuckles spoke louder than the storm. What did they want? And how deep did this web of betrayal run? Fear gripped him, tighter than before. "We have to get out of here," James said, voice low. But before he could take a step, the door slammed shut behind Thorn, sewing them inside, the atmosphere thickening with tension. The kids whimpered, and Clara's eyes filled with dread. The shock melted into a desperate urgency. Torn loyalties danced around them, and darkness pulled at the edges of his mind. What do I do now? James wondered, his heart pounding like a drum. What lies lay ahead, and could he protect Clara and her children from the fallout of a past he thought was buried? Thunder crashed again, the inn shaking under nature's fury. Faint whispers of dread swirled in the air, clinging to James like a heavy fog. His breath came fast, panic swirling between them like the storm outside. "Why are you really here?" he demanded, eyes locked on Thorn, struggling to digest the revelation that ignited a furnace of chaos in his chest. "Family ties? You think that's enough?" Thorn shifted, his body trembling. "More than ever! I thought I could keep you safe from all this." His voice cracked, revealing desperation and a hint of vulnerability. A sudden pounding interrupted their exchange, louder and more urgent than the rain. The shadows outside moved swiftly. Clara's grip on her children tightened, eyes darting between James and Thorn. "Please, let's not panic." James attempted to steady them, but he could feel his own heart racing. The shadows loomed closer. "We need to think. Can we escape?" "No one's escaping until I find what they owe me," Thorn said, his back straightening as he spoke, a glint of defiance sparking in his eyes. James opened his mouth to respond when a loud crack split the night. Before anyone could react, the door burst open, flinging wood and rain across the dim inn like a curtain torn aside. A figure appeared, silhouetted in the chaos. "Get away from him!" the voice roared over the storm. The newcomer was a woman, drenched in rain and fury. James frowned, recognition striking him like a lightning bolt. "Lena?" His heart leaped in confusion. Lena, his childhood friend, stood there, face streaked with mud and rage. "What are you doing here?" "Because he's a monster!" she spat, pointing at Thorn. The accusation hung thick in the air. "I'm your uncle!" Thorn shouted, panic bleeding into his voice, but Lena ignored him, her focus on James. "James, he's lying! He's been lying to everyone! My father, he was involved in all of it." She paused, her breath unsteady. "Your father, too. The debts, the danger, it's not just Thorn who's been involved. It's your whole family." The wind howled outside, drowning out Clara's gasp as the words crashed over them. The room shuddered, and James felt the very ground shift beneath him. What did she mean? The truth twisted inside him, making him feel sick. "No!" James shook his head, voice shaking. "You can't! You're wrong!" But Lena stepped forward, her eyes fierce. "I found the papers, the old ledgers, your family. They've buried too much. They've been using people like Clara and her children as pawns." Clara's face blanched, realization dawning in her eyes. "What?" The shadows chuckled again, the sinister undercurrent of laughter creeping back through the rain-soaked night. The noise sent shivers down James's spine. Who were these "they" she spoke of? What horrors lay beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect lives? James stood frozen as Lena's accusations seared into his mind. If Thorn's ties linked him to a family of deceit rather than honor, who was he supposed to save? Where would the path of loyalty lead him? Then a loud crash echoed outside, splintering the night. James turned just in time to see dark figures barging through. The broken door. They came like shadows, menacing and relentless. "Don't move!" one of them shouted, a glint of steel flashing in the flickering candlelight. James's heart thundered with a dread that spiraled in his gut. The storm was nothing compared to the tempest unfolding before them. The truth pulsed like a warning bell. How deep did the web of lies go? And in the end, whom did he truly want to save? In the chaos, everything blurred. Loyalty, love, family, it all twisted, battled within him, and time seemed to freeze. He was caught between worlds, the past slamming into the present. The stakes had just reached a terrifying peak, and the question gnawed at him. Could he stand against the truth? Whatever it may be. The shadowy figures advanced, creeping like a tide, threatening to overwhelm. Heart pounding, James felt the world close around him. His breath hitched, and an unsettling chill slithered down his spine as he moved to shield Clara and her children. The figures loomed larger, their eyes glinting like shards of glass, full of malice. "Get behind me!" he barked, the words tumbling from his lips in a rush. But the terror gripped him, a vice around his chest, squeezing tighter with each step they took. Clara pressed her children against the hearth, their small faces etched with confusion and fear. He could respond. A commanding voice erupted from the shadows, silencing the storm outside. "We're not here for him, James." A big man stepped forward, face contorted in fury. "We're here for you." Panic rippled through him. "Me?" "Yes," the man spat, taking another step closer, hand resting on the hilt of a glimmering blade. "Your father set this all in motion. His debts, they belong to you now." Everything inside James seized. He flicked his gaze to Thorn, hardly recognizing the man who had once seemed merely a banker. "What are you talking about?" But just as Thorn opened his mouth, a sickening sound split the air. A gunshot echoed through the inn. The world splintered, time snapping like a brittle twig. James was thrown sideways, something hard striking his shoulder. He fell to the ground, disoriented, heart racing like thunder above him. "James!" Clara screamed, rushing toward him as if to shield him with her body. The intruders flinched back, surprise etched on their faces. Then the man who had spoken grinned, a chilling smile that twisted the corners of his mouth. "You didn't think it was just debts, did you? Secrets run deeper than you know, Worthington." Suddenly, a shadow darted past, flickering between the tables. A small, determined figure broke through the chaos. "Leave him alone." Marcy, one of Clara's children, stood firm, clutching an old, rusty toy sword, eyes wide but resolute. "Get back, kid," one of the men growled, brandishing the blade threateningly. James blinked. The fuse had lit, the edges of his world blurred. It wasn't just about survival anymore. "Stop!" He pushed himself up, a fire igniting deep within his chest, despite the haze of pain. "You don't have to do this. If it's me you want, then take me. Leave them out of this." "Too late for that," the man sneered, dark amusement glimmering in his eyes. "You're all caught in a web you can't escape. Family ties mean nothing here." James felt his chest tighten, the weight of heavy truth crashing down upon him. Felt it, the ground shifting beneath his feet as a truth clawed its way forward. "James!" Lena shouted, her voice slicing through the fog of confusion. "The ledgers! Your father, he sold us all out. Our families were pawns." She turned, eyes blazing with fury, and James felt his heart drop. "Together we have to fight back. There's more at stake than just us." Before he could comprehend the implications, another figure charged forward, rushing in from outside. A woman, cloaked in dark rain, brandishing a familiar silver pendant resembling a family crest. "Stop!" she cried, breathless, coal-black eyes locking on to James's, igniting a flicker of recognition deep within him. "You have to trust me. They're coming for something far worse than debt." The revelation hung, charged with tension. Who was she? Why did she look so much like Clara? Everything fractured, and panic clawed at the edges of his mind. "What do you mean?" James gasped, confusion spiraling as he looked back at Clara and the children. In that moment, all eyes were on the newcomer, the air vibrating with questions and fears. The shadows closed in tighter. Could the roots of betrayal run even deeper than he'd ever thought? And then the reality of it all struck. Was it family he'd fought to protect? Or family he was meant to confront? Who could he trust when the very ground beneath him trembled like a fragile dream? The air crackled with tension. A dangerous. "I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request." "I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request." The pendant stepped forward again, her presence commanding despite the tension in the room. "No!" she cried, eyes filled with an unsettling fire. "You don't understand. What you think you know is just the beginning." The atmosphere thickened, a charged silence pressing down around them. James felt like a ship tossed in rough seas, uncertainty crashing down on him with each revelation. "What do you mean?" he asked, panic lacing his voice. "Everything you've been led to believe. Everything about your family's legacy." She hesitated, a tremor in her tone. "It's a lie. Your father didn't just ignore the debts. He arranged them." Lena swayed slightly, taken aback by the intensity of the revelation. Clarity washed over her features, but panic tightened. In Clara's grip on her children. "What do you mean?" James felt the ground shift beneath him. "Why would he do that?" he stammered, the air suddenly too thick to breathe. "Because he knew what was coming. Your family. They orchestrated this storm." The woman's voice trembled, weighty with revelation. "Your Uncle Thorn. You weren't meant to find out like this, but it was all part of a plan." The shadows paused, absorbing the words like a sponge. "Plan?" Thorn shouted, desperation lacing the edges of his anger. "What are you talking about?" Before she could respond, the room erupted into chaos. The door splintered behind James, and as he turned, a figure burst through. It was his father. Alarm and disbelief coursed through him. "Dad?" It felt impossible. He stared into the dark, familiar eyes that had shaped his childhood. Heart racing against the reality of the moment. "What are you doing here?" "James," his father shouted, terror threading through his voice. "They have no idea what they're dealing with." Shock ricocheted in James's mind. "What? What do you mean?" But before he could process it, a loud crash from behind stirred the shadows, and a flash of silver reflected off the dark. The woman took a protective step toward James. "They're not just here for the money. They want the power, and they believe you hold the key." Silence enveloped them, heavy with unspoken truths. James felt a lump rise in his throat. Power, key, confusion churned in a storm of emotions. Behind him, Clara whispered, "What power?" Then a shocking gasp erupted from Lena, her eyes wide as memories flickered like lightning. "The family crest. It can unlock something." "Unlock what?" James's heart thundered. But before anyone could answer, a loud, blinding explosion lit up the room. Glass shattered as the front wall caved in, revealing not just danger, but fate, tangled in broken promises. Smoke billowed. And as James stumbled back, The chaos surged. "Get down!" he yelled as shadows darted against the fiery backdrop. But in that brief moment, he glimpsed something, a flicker of movement among the debris. His father reached for him, screaming something. But the echoes of the past blasted through his ears like an ominous storm. As the dust settled, the center of the chaos revealed a glinting knife clutched in the hand of a figure emerging from a falling beam. And then the world held its breath. What was this place they had stumbled into? What was it all for? Everything he thought he knew shattered like glass around him. As the dust slowly cleared, unbreakable truths surged to the surface, but clarity felt miles away. "James!" Clara's voice pierced through, and his heart stopped. "It's not over." And in that moment, terror gripped him tighter than the storm outside. What lay ahead? What secrets would emerge? The dust swirled in the air like the chaos of their lives, thickening with every fearful breath they took. James blinked, his heart racing, as his father's presence surged into the scene. A figure that seemed carved from stone, desperate yet determined. "Dad!" he whispered, confusion gnawing in his stomach. The shadows shifted around them, the figures closing in, eyes glittering with malevolence. The tension hung thick, a taut string ready to snap. "James, listen," his father began, voice firm amidst the chaos. But a jagged noise cut him off. Lena stepped forward, eyes wild, her body blocking the path to James, protecting him as if her life depended on it. "Don't trust him," she shouted, voice trembling, but an echo of fear laced with defiance sang in her tone. "He's the reason for all of this." An incredulous laugh slicked from Thorn's lips, a desperate snarl. "You're wrong, Lena. You have no idea what you're speaking about." Their voices tangled in a dark ballet, a frightening dance of doubts and truths. But then the woman with the pendant stepped into the light. "You don't get it, James. Your father didn't just arrange the debts. He made a deal." She breathed in, her chest rising and falling as panic thickened around them. "With them." She pointed a shaking finger toward the approaching figures. With every heartbeat, the storm outside raged, punctuating the claustrophobia of the moment. James's breath came shallow, each inhale a dagger of unease. "What deal?" he barely managed. The lump in his throat growing heavier, choking back the clarity he so desperately sought. Before anyone could respond, another figure slipped through the debris. The man who had broken through the front door. A grim smile crept across his face, and in an instant, James recognized him. It was his childhood friend, Matt, a boy who had shared laughter and dreams. But his eyes now held a darkness that sent ice through James's veins. "You didn't think you could escape, did you?" Matt chuckled, the sound mirroring distant thunder. "The family lineage runs deeper than you realize, my friend." Matt. What? James felt his world tilting. Betrayal lanced through him like a cold blade. He could barely process it. "We're not just talking money. This goes back generations." Matt's voice vibrated with a strange excitement, a psychological unraveling laid bare. "Your family's power, they've hidden it. That crest you saw, it opens a door, and that door leads to everything." He stepped closer, eyes fixed on James, as if he held all the answers. Yet all James felt was dread tightening around him. like chains. Suddenly, the shadows behind him erupted in movement, a mass of dark forms flooding into the inn. Fingers of panic gripped James's heart as the figures surged forward, and out came a woman he never expected to see, his mother. "Mom?" The word came out like a gasp. Confusion clashed with shock. "James!" she cried, rushing toward him, her face a mask of fear and resolve. "You must trust me. It's not what it seems." "What are you doing here?" he stammered, struggling against the pull of old affection and new fears. "You knew all this!" "Yes," she shouted, and the weight of her truth crashed over him. "I tried to protect you. I thought—" Her voice faltered, trembling like the flickering candles. "I thought you were safe from it all." James felt the earth quaking beneath him, and as a solid truth lodged in his throat, realization dawned like a blinding light. "Did you?" The question hung thick, tasting like betrayal. "James," she continued, breathing heavily, "I made mistakes. We all did. But you hold the key to changing everything." Laughter erupted viciously from the shadows, echoing through the room. "Change? You're dreaming," one of the intruders taunted. But the laughter didn't just come from them. It mirrored back from James's own heart as confusion flooded his mind. "Do we change the lies?" he whispered, trembling inside. "By becoming what they want us to be?" The weight of their past crashed like waves against him. Loyalties, lies, blood, everything spinning out of control. "Why now?" he shouted, desperation lacing every word. But before she could answer, the looming figures advanced, malignant intent pooling in their eyes. As the storm continued its fury outside, James felt everything around him constraining tighter. He couldn't breathe. The shadows closed in fast, and the realization of betrayal morphed into a terrifying clarity. "Where do we go from here?" James cried, lost. The showdown crested, a cascade of confusion, and in that moment, reality twisted. Everything blurred. James's heart raced against the truth. Who was truly with him? What did it mean to hold the key? A deafening bang erupted, followed by choking gasps, and in a flash, a gunshot rang out. Silence fell. What had they done? A void opened, and with it, hope shattered, leaving behind nothing but an aching dread. The dust hung thick in the air, swirling around James like a suffocating cloud. It froze him, heart racing as confusion pulsed through every part of his being. What truth was left to uncover? The gunshot echoed like a ghost in his ears, the looming figures creeping closer. As his father reached for him, desperation etched across his face. The world around them shifted. Time blurred. The air crackled with uncertainty. "Dad!" James shouted, almost drowning beneath the weight of it all. And then he saw it. A figure wrenched back. The knife glinted in the dim light, and the shadows shifted. A body trembled against the doorway, a gasp escaping thin lips. "Marcy!" Clara's voice tore through the chaos, filled with horror. The child had tried to protect them with a valiant heart, now standing frozen in fear, eyes wide with terror. James's world shattered. "Get back!" he yelled, a rush of instinct propelling him forward. But before he could reach her, before anyone could move, the big man lunged. The room erupted into screams, the force of the moment collapsing everything like a house of cards. Then a dagger of darkness pierced the commotion. The dark man raised a weapon, and time halted. breath caught tight in the throat. The silence screamed louder than the chaos. A shot rang out again, this time not from the darkness, but from his father. "James, wait!" His father's voice rang hollow, tinged with panic, and the realization hit him like a thunderbolt. His father had aimed at Thorn, but the bullet went wide. Instead, it struck the figure cloaked in shadows, Matt. "Matt!" James's heart clenched painfully, disbelief flooding his veins. But Matt staggered, eyes wide, surprise morphing into an ugly mask of betrayal. "Lie!" he gasped, blood seeping through fingers that pressed against the wound. Shock twisted his features, and in that moment, everything changed. The world shifted, fracturing under the weight of heavy secrets. "You didn't know," the woman said, her voice strained, stepping forward. "You see, it's not just about you, James. Matt was never your friend. He's been working for them." "No!" James's cry sliced through the air, raw and desperate. Was it true? Had everything been a lie? He felt his chest constrict, suffocating under the weight of revelation. Matt slumped forward, a shadow falling across his face. "You have no idea how deep the roots go," he rasped, eyes flickering. With something like frustration or fear, or perhaps both. It was too late now. The house of cards had fallen. "What do you mean?" James took a step closer, drawn into the swirling storm of confusion and anger. "What did you do? Why?" But before Matt could answer, silence descended like a blanket. The woman raised her chin, a fierce light igniting in her gaze. "The debts aren't just financial. Your family has ties to something much darker. Matt was never meant to let you find out." A collective gasp rippled through the room, an electrifying current of dread. "Don't you see?" she pressed, urgency coloring her words. "It's all part of a twisted plan, a power play. Your father made a deal to keep you safe, but it changed you." James's knees felt weak, and he staggered backward. "What plan?" he managed to choke out, feeling a knot grow tighter in his throat. As Matt collapsed, a vicious smile spread across the darkness of the clearing. The shadows shifted again, and from the dark, a voice emerged, smooth and unsettling. "There's still time, James. You can join us. You can be part of the legacy." James shook his head, deep terror gripping him. "No, I won't be part of this." But doubt gnawed at him. "What legacy?" "Your father has already chosen," the voice continued, chilling him to the bone. "You just have to accept your place." "Stay away!" Clara screamed, reaching for her. "Children," tears flowing like rivers of fear. "You are all puppets," the figure hissed, eyes glinting dangerously. "And the strings are being pulled tighter." James looked back at his father, desperation in every fiber of his being. "What is he talking about?" Silent truth sat heavily between them, a rift too wide to cross. Was everything they had known fake? Had they been steering into darkness all along? With a final shudder, Matt's eyes dimmed, leaving behind a void that swallowed the light. The whispers kicked up a storm, swirling, rising like a tide. And then, from the shadows, the figure stepped fully into the light. "This is only the beginning, James. Trust me, or don't, but the darkness is coming for you, and there's nowhere to hide." Everything felt suspended, hearts racing as time slipped through their fingers like sand. James stood at the edge, caught between a past he thought he knew and a future brimming with unspeakable dread. Who could he really trust? As the truth cascaded around him like an avalanche, the storm outside howled ever louder. Where would it all lead? Would he find the courage to face the darkness, or would the weight of family ties drag him down? The questions hung there, unanswered, lingering like a storm on the horizon, waiting to break free. The air thickened, heavy with unspoken words and wild emotions. James stood there, heart racing, the shadows around him pulsating with danger. His father, his mother, Clara, and the kids all were watching him. They were all waiting. The storm outside roared, a tempest fit to match the chaos brewing inside the inn. "And what do you expect me to do?" James spat, eyes darting from Matt's bleeding Thorn to the shadows closing in. "Join you? What legacy could I possibly want that would tie me to you?" The back door creaked as it shook against the wind. With a sudden crash, the shadows spilled forth. The figures of men dressed in dark suits, faces obscured by hoods. "We've come for our payment," the tallest one said, voice smooth as ice, yet jagged as broken glass. "It's time this family gets what it deserves." James froze. "What do you mean?" But before he could catch his breath, a loud explosion shook the building, filling the air with debris and darkness. The ceiling above splintered, a mass of wood and stone tumbling down. He ducked instinctively, grabbing Clara and her children, pulling them close. "Not now!" he shouted. It felt surreal, like time itself bent and twisted around the chaos. Dust clouded the air, stinging his eyes, and panic swirled like a whirlpool. Just as the dust began to settle, a different sound emerged, a piercing wail that nearly shattered his heart. A child's scream. "Marcy!" He turned, eyes wide, searching through the haze for her small figure. "Stay back!" Clara screamed, pushing her children behind her. "Get away!" But the shadows laughed, mocking. The tension folded in on itself, thick as the storm outside. James felt his throat tighten, a lump growing. What could he do? And then, in the center of it all, that woman, the one with the pendant, lowered her hood. James blinked, breath catching. It was impossible. "Catherine!" Everyone turned, all eyes widening in shock. Catherine, his sister. The sister he thought was lost, taken years ago in a whirlwind of betrayal. She stood there, drenched, blood on her hands, eyes piercing through the gloom. "James," she said, voice barely a whisper, but the clarity rang out like a bell. "I'm here to help you." "Help?" His heart surged with disbelief. "You've been gone! You know!" Rage and confusion coiled tight in his gut. "I was taken, James!" she shouted, desperation boiling. "You need to understand! They—" But another explosion cut her off. A terrifying crack like thunder that split the inn in half. Suddenly, James found himself staring at a gaping void where moments before had been solid ground. The shadows surged in confusion. Catherine rushed forward. "Look!" she shouted, pointing toward the crumbling wood, revealing something hidden beneath the floorboards. A trapdoor swinging open, revealing darkness swirling below. "Follow me," she urged, fear etched on her face. "It's the only way!" Before he could think, James felt a pull. The trapdoor. Go! But just as they reached it, another figure stepped from the shadows. The man in black, grinning menacingly. "You'll never escape your fate, Worthingtons." James hesitated, the weight of decisions crashing over him. Catherine's presence unleashed memories he buried deep, twisting the knife of betrayal. "James!" Clara's voice broke through the horror. "We don't have time!" Just then, a scream echoed, a piercing sound that silenced all. It came from Matt's mouth, who suddenly leapt up, but the blood stained his shirt, crimson and vibrant, surging his strength. "This isn't over," he roared, rushing toward the figures. "You don't get to decide our fate." "Matt, no!" James shouted, reaching out. But it was too late. Matt, as if he could erase the darkness. And in that moment, the air crackled with tension, energy swirling as he collided with the shadows. A horrifying explosion of light erupted, a blinding flash that illuminated everything, the darkness retreating, revealing secrets he never wanted to see. The shadows coiled around, and then silence fell. The light tore through the tempest, revealing the faces of those he trusted, yet each wore expressions of fear, pain, and uncertainty. James felt his chest tighten again, breath escaping him. What had just happened? His world spun as he grasped for answers. What if everything he believed was wrong? What if Matt had sacrificed himself for a cause he didn't understand? Who were these people really? He looked back at Catherine, confusion swirling in his chest. What do we do now? But as the dust settled around them, each question echoed deeper into the void. What truly lay beneath the ancestral ties that bound them? What would it take to uncover their shared destiny? Could they rise from the ashes, or would the shadows swallow them whole? The dust settled slowly, swirling around them like a soft blanket, yet the air buzzed with unspoken truths. Questions hung heavy, thick as fog. James's heart raced as he looked at his sister, Catherine, hope and confusion battling within him. This was too much, too many revelations, too much loss. His father stood rigidly, the weight of their family's secrets pressing down on him. Clara clutched her children, eyes darting between James and Catherine, uncertainty shining bright in her gaze. The shadows loomed closer, fury and fear intertwined in the thick atmosphere. But just as James opened his mouth, desperate for clarity, a loud clatter shattered the stillness. The trapdoor swung shut with a deafening bang. Heart thudding in his chest, he turned to see the dark figures advancing again, intent and menacing. "Run!" he shouted, instinct taking over as he grabbed Catherine's hand. They stumbled backward, urgency propelling them toward the compact haven of the inn. Clara pushed her children behind her, ready to shield them from the impending chaos. "Leave them!" the tall man commanded, voice slicing through the tension, eyes cruel as. They swept over the room. "You care for those you don't know. They will only slow you down." But just as the adrenaline surged, Catherine shouted, "No! We're family!" And in that moment, a shocking laugh erupted from the dark mass. It echoed, mocking and hollow. "Family is just a word!" the figure smirked, and James felt the tightness in his chest deepen. Family doesn't protect you from the truth. Static crackled in the air, tension winding tighter. Then, against the backdrop of chaos, Catherine whispered, "James, there's something you need to know." "What?" he shot back, heart racing, the panic rising. He didn't want another secret, not now when their lives were at stake. "Matt, he wasn't a pawn," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He was part of it all, the plan to bring you back." "What plan?" The words spat out like venom, disbelief charging the air. But before they could process it, a sickening sound tore through the air. A piercing scream. Marcy, wide-eyed, slipped from Clara's side, darting toward the shadows. "Marcy, no!" Clara gasped, reaching out, but the shadows pulled her back. James could only watch in horror as the darkness engulfed her. "No!" Panic flared, pulsing through him. He lunged forward, but the world warped again, and before he could react, a blinding light erupted from within the mass of darkness, hot and fierce. It pulsed, brightening the entire room. In that moment, seemed to hiss and retreat. James shielded his eyes as the light morphed into a figure, a woman, silhouetted against the brightness, tall and commanding. When the light faded, she stood revealed, a regal presence. Her emerald gown flowed around her like liquid. But then, James's heart dropped. The face was undeniably familiar. "Mother?" he whispered, confusion clawing at him as layers of memories crashed down like a tidal wave. "Yes, my son." The voice was like velvet, laced with authority. "I've come to reveal the truth." A lump rose in his throat as shock rolled through him. He had spent years believing her gone, and here she stood, clear as day, in a hall of shadows. "Everything that has happened," she continued, eyes narrowing on the encroaching darkness, "was orchestrated by our family. The debts, the danger, everything leads back to me." "What?" Catherine breathed, stepping back in disbelief. "You're the one?" "In a way, yes." Her voice trembled slightly, but her demeanor held firm. "I had to make sacrifices to protect you. Sacrifices I never wanted." James felt the ground beneath him shift, the weight of her words threatening to tumble his world over. "Protect us? You've destroyed us!" But before she could retort, chaos erupted again. The dark figure surged forward, regaining ground, twisted words mixing with wild fury. Then it happened. Time fractured. The world around him burst apart like a balloon, revealing swirling darkness, his mother grasping his hand tighter. "You must understand, James. The truth is far deeper than you know. And if you don't choose now, the darkness will consume us all." As the shadows lunged, James stood paralyzed, heart racing, pulse roaring in his ears. What treachery lay within family bonds? What unseen forces pulled the strings? And in that moment, he felt everything pivot. He realized he would have to decide who to trust when it felt like everything he knew had already shattered. Who was truly on his side? Who would rise from this wreckage with him? Would he grasp onto the flickering torch of truth, or would the darkness swallow them all whole? The light from James's mother seemed to push the shadows back, and for a moment, the terrifying tension that had enveloped them faded into hushed whispers. "You're alive," he breathed, his heart thudding in his chest. Hope swelled, battling the fear that still clung to him. "I've always been here," she replied, stepping closer. Her eyes held tales of sorrow, love, and dread, all wrapped in a single gaze. "But you need to trust me. You've got a choice to make, and time is slipping away." The dark figures surged forward again. They moved like vultures, hungry for what they believed was theirs. "Enough of this!" the tall man growled, stepping into the harsh light. "The legacy can't be switched. It belongs to the Worthingtons. To you." James felt terror grip him. There was no way they could take him back. "I will play your game!" he shouted, clenching his fists. The chaos was boiling over, eyes wide with shock, fear snaking through the air like a lethal whisper. "Stand down!" Catherine's voice pierced through, strong and unyielding. Against the rising tide of fear, she stepped forward, solidified by courage. "This is our moment. We're not afraid anymore." James felt a surge of adrenaline. "Together?" he asked, uncertainty brewing in his stomach. "Together!" Catherine affirmed, reaching for his hand. Clara moved to flank them, kids tucked safely behind her. The essence of family growing roots among the chaos. They formed a protective circle, a barrier against the encroaching shadows. And right then, the world tipped. The figures rushed forward, darkness swallowing light. "This ends now," James yelled, a fierce determination swelling within him. With twin hearts beating fiercely, he and Catherine charged toward the dark mass. "Take the crest!" she shouted, urging him on. "It can unlock everything." With trembling hands, James found the pendant Catherine had spoken of, its weight reassuring against the rush of chaos. Gripping it tight, he stepped into the wave of shadow, heart pounding like thunder. "What have you done?" the tall man roared, but it was too late. As the crest glowed to life, the shadows hesitated, retreating like a tide pulled back by an unseen force. "Now, focus," Catherine urged, determination blazing in her eyes. He felt her strength radiate, fusing with his. Together, they thrust the pendant forward, releasing a burst of light that bathed the inn in brilliant warmth. Screams echoed as the light clashed with darkness. The figures writhed, their forms twisting in agony as light chased them back, dissolving their malice. The air filled with a crackling energy, swirling around James and Catherine, a cocoon of hope wrapping them tightly. "One!" Clara shouted, gathering her kids. The wreckage, smoke billowing behind them, leaving only silhouettes of a family healing and beginning anew. Breathless, with the dawn creeping over the horizon, James turned to Catherine. "What do we do now?" She smiled softly, eyes shimmering with determination. "We rebuild, together. We secure the truth and keep everyone safe." And in that moment, an unbreakable bond settled between them. A future born not of shadows, but light, one step away from victory. A renewed hope rising with the sun. But as they stood, the weight of the past still loomed over them. A question of legacy still resting heavy in the air. What more secrets waited to be unearthed? You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this conclusion. If you like stories about farmers and everyday life on the farm, and want to know what really happens in the daily lives of the biggest farmers in the world, the hidden stories of the richest owners, and the secrets of the farm girls that the media doesn't reveal, check out our virtual book with the most famous and secret stories from the farm. Click on the first link in the video comments and get yours now.